Goodness, I'm beating up a microphone in here. Welcome to the Bleav in Hills Hoops podcast here on Bleav Podcast Networks. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson from Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Joining me, my co-host from the Tar Heel Tribune, R.L. Bynum. Catch us every week during the season for North Carolina hoops, all your news, info, and more. And some surprises, some special guests and stuff along throughout the season. So definitely check us out. Make sure you subscribe to us on the Bleav Podcast Network. That's Bleav. Just search Bleav in Hills Hoops, and it'll pull up the spot for you to be able to subscribe to it. And of course, you can subscribe to it on the Tobacco Road YouTube channel and on the Tar Heel Tribune's YouTube channel as well, where it'll give you a notification whenever we're about to have a new episode pop up. Real quick episode tonight, we're going to give a quick review of what we saw, things we liked during that blowout win against Syracuse on Saturday. Don't know if anybody had that on the bingo card going into that weekend. And then, of course, a quick preview of Louisville coming into the Dean Dome tomorrow night on Wednesday. So we'll definitely have all that there for you as well. Before we get into it, quick word from our sponsors over at Bet Online. With NFL playoffs right around the corner and the NBA season in full swing, Bet Online has you covered with all the up-to-the-second odds, news, and scores. With additional odds, lines, trends, and info on both desktop and mobile, you can access the world's best wagering information anytime. Head there today to get into the action and see all the updated odds. Remember to use promo code Bleav, BLEAV, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. And where we start is our takeaways from our most previous game. Carolina beat the bricks off the Orange on Saturday noon in Chapel Hill. They were pretty much dominant from start to finish. They were up 28-12 by the New York. Armando only played 17 minutes due to foul trouble, but he didn't need to play that much during that game. RL, I assume you were at the Dean Dome watching this take place. What was one of your big takeaways just from watching this game and seeing how this Carolina team is performing at the moment?
Boy, this felt like an early season non-conference game against a weak opponent, not a ACC game. 36-point win. That's the biggest margin ever against Syracuse. That was fun to watch. I mean, you had 9 players with assists and points, and everything seemed to be going well. Not too impressed with Syracuse most of the game, but yeah, Carolina looked good. I mean, the defense and the rebounding continue to be huge. I mean, they haven't been out rebounded since the Kentucky game, and had season high 13 steals, and the lowest 3-point shooting percentages by opponents all season. The 4 lowest have come in the last 4 games. So it's just you get that rebounding and defense going. It's good. It's going to be hard to beat Carolina, particularly the way the offense has come around, the way Elliot Cadeau has been more aggressive here of late.
It felt like, and maybe you can attest to this being there in person, but watching it on TV, it almost felt like Syracuse quit after a certain point. Like it just looked like they were so frustrated with trying to stop the offense that they just kind of like threw their hands up. And that was like in the first half. So like they went to the halftime like that and came out, and Carolina just kind of pressed the gas down again right at the very beginning. And it just never was really close. Haven't seen one of those in a long time. Carolina team just going through like a hot knife through butter. The one thing that stood out for me was the movement, the ball movement. Like they are really moving the ball around and sharing the ball. It seems like it doesn't really matter who the leading scorer is or who's got the most assists, who's got the most minutes and things like that. Stuff that it kind of felt like they were kind of paying attention to last year. I think what a lot of guys thinking about the pros and national championship aspirations and things of that sort, those kind of things, Armando trying to get up in the rafters and that kind of stuff. I think that kind of stuff got in the way, but this year it feels like they're just bought in to like the Carolina system that Hubert has installed. And from number 1 to 10 in the rotation, it just feels like they're all locked in on what they're trying to do. And that looked to me, it felt like the smoothest offensively they've been maybe all year to date.
Right. And it starts with Cadeau in the half court with the passing. But I think, as you said, everybody is passing well, and that's getting Carolina so many open shots. It's why they shot so well against Syracuse. Some best shooting performance, one of the best of the season. And it's just, when you have that much ball movement, not much dribbling, not much with like last season with the ball sticking.
Mm-hmm.
And last season it ended up being a very difficult Caleb Love 3-pointer at the end or something of that order, and you're just not seeing that this year, and it's making a huge difference.
It's crazy because people know I also do Bleav in Carolina Panthers for the Bleav Network as well, and we just got out of a season where it felt like every single thing that the Panthers tried to do offensively, it felt like they were in mud. Like everything just felt so hard, like just getting 3-yard runs and stuff like that. Everything looked really, really hard. And Carolina was in that stretch for about the past 2 years or so where it just looked like offensively, everything looked so hard, like to run sets and to get things in order. This doesn't look hard at all. This looks like they're having fun. Like they're just out there playing. And it's remarkable to me that they've been able to turn this around as quickly as they have. I want to give flowers to RJ Davis. It seems like we're doing it each week, but he deserved it. He is having a top 10 Carolina senior season in terms of what he's putting together. He in the Syracuse game, he was 7 for 12, 4 of 6 from 3, had 5 steals, 22 points was the game high. The 10th time that Davis has broke 20 points in a game this season, and he's shooting over 41% from 3, which would be his career high. I don't know of another guard in the country that's playing better than him. I feel like he's on the first team All-American team as it stands right now, but I'm starting to feel like he might be a contender for National Player of the Year status if he keeps this going. What are your thoughts, or am I just being the fan here?
Oh, he's got to be in the conversation for sure. I mean, and you have to credit the swapping of backcourt mates. This year with Elliott, you look at most of his most open shots come when Elliott's on the court.
That's true. Yeah.
Davis really flourishes off the ball when Elliott's on the court, and that really helps. And obviously, RJ is the rock whenever they need it when things are down. Well, we didn't have that on Saturday, but when that happens again, he's probably going to be the guy to lean on, who you can count on. But I also think Harrison Ingram and Cormac Ryan are bringing in an intensity and tenacity that last year's team really lacked, and it's just a mindset that they're bringing that it just brings everybody up to another level because they're seeing how intense. Teammates will see how intense they are and try to keep up, and it just it kind of cascades throughout the team.
Yeah, Ingram seems like one of those guys. It's weird. You don't see it a lot when a guy comes in first year that's an older guy that you guys kind of gravitate to, but it does feel like Ingram is one of the leaders on this team. Him, Armando, RJ, it feels like those three are the ones everybody kind of looks towards. As for Syracuse, honestly, it was kind of weird seeing Syracuse not playing zone the whole game. They switched to it a little bit when they were trying to slow Carolina down, but I had a buddy hit me on Twitter. He was like, "What is going on? Why is Syracuse not playing zone?" I'm like, Bam's not the coach anymore. They're like, "Oh, I didn't even realize." I'm like, "Yeah, it's kind of weird." But even when they were playing the zone, honestly, Carolina was like the one team in the ACC that was kind of built to play that zone. Roy kind of figured it out. With his teams, the two post players, it really was that power forward, that Harrison Ingram spot would be Tyler Zeller or whoever, and they basically would be right there around the foul line in that zone.
Right there with the ACC logo.
Yeah, like they would just kind of wait there.
Facilitator and
roll around. Yeah, they get it to that person, and that person, they have to be able to shoot at that spot. They can either shoot that 10-footer or they can dump it behind that back part of the zone line to the baseline, somebody cutting, and that's kind of how Carolina was dealing with it, to a point where the zone didn't really bother Carolina the past couple of years. I didn't realize Carolina is 13-4 all time now against Syracuse, and that was the largest margin of victory in series history against Syracuse. The previous record was a 19-point win back in 2018, and that was in the ACC tournament. Carolina now, and I'll pull up the ACC standings here in a little bit because I thought they were very interesting to look at going into this week. Carolina's now won 6 consecutive games. They're 5-0 in ACC play. They're the only undefeated team in the ACC as we stand. They've won all 5 of those games by at least 8 points. The last 4 have been by double digits. Like, RL, it feels like this train is going like up. Like, it's not plateauing out or anything like that. It feels like they've got room to get better.
And the rest of the schedule in January is pretty easy.
Yeah,
They could very well not be. They could very well not lose another game until the first Duke game on February 4th. And the way Duke is kind of separating itself from the rest of the league, that is shaping up to be one of the most anticipated Duke Carolina games in a couple of years. They're all highly anticipated, but a little bit more so this time because now Carolina's number 4, Duke's number 7.
Mm-hmm.
It could very well be 2 top 5 teams by the time that game happens.
Hell,
And,
it could be one versus
the more
two.
upsets, the more upsets this week than there were last week. Who knows how high Duke and Carolina could rise?
That's what I would say. Like for the way the top 10's been losing this season, they could be number 1, number 2 by the time we get to February. So, the whole top 10 except for Carolina and who was it? Was it?
No, it was eight of the top 10 teams lost.
Y'all lost again.
2 of them lost twice, and that had only happened one other time. That was 1992. Carolina was one of the victims that week. They lost twice, but so it doesn't happen very often. Obviously. I
want to show this because if you're an old school fan of the ACC, this has just got to warm your heart a little bit. Looking at the standings here, the ACC Big Four atop of the ACC standings. I think it's the first time at this point of the season where these 4 schools were atop of the standings. I think since 2004, 2005, something like that. And I was thinking back on that season because I've always joked. I think 2019 was the peak of the ACC to this point in terms of we had 3-1 seeds. Virginia won the whole thing. Carolina was a 1, Duke was a 1. That Carolina Duke game alone in the ACC tournament had like 9 first rounders or something on the floor or something nuts. I've always thought that was probably the peak. But thinking back on it, 2004-05, that year, Julius Hodge was still at State. Skip Prosser was still coaching Wake Forest. Chris Paul was a sophomore point guard at Wake, about to be a top 5 draft pick. Duke was winning the conference and winning pretty much every game they played in the ACC because J.J. Redick was here. And the games they lost was to Carolina, who went on to win the national championship in 2005. So the last time all 4 of the Big Four made the NCAA tournament, I think was the 2004-2005 season. I know there's some worry about the league as a whole getting in because as it stands right now, I think a lot of pundits only have us having 2 teams getting in. What do you when you see the top of the league? And I guess you can kind of stop it right there underneath Florida State because I don't know what's going on with Miami or Clemson for that matter. Clemson had like a 3-game losing streak last week. So what do you think when you see the top of the standings here? Is it really Carolina, then Duke, then everybody else? Or can one of these teams, State, Wake, Florida State, Miami, Clemson, can any of them maybe emerge as like a contender here and help the conference out?
They could, but I'm not seeing it right now. I mean, you're down to Duke and Carolina are the only ranked teams in the ACC, which is really strange.
Yeah.
What traditionally you're expecting from the league, and that's going to hurt Duke and Carolina somewhat in with their NCAA resumes because they're going to be playing teams that aren't going to help them very much. So you would like to think that Wake State, maybe Clemson, maybe Miami might come up to a higher tier, but I'm just not seeing it. I think that there's clearly a second tier after Duke and Carolina, and it's hard to know who's going to emerge at the top of that.
Yeah, if I had to choose, I'd say Wake is probably the best equipped to do it. But to your point, you're right. It's like if they didn't have the opportunities in the non-conference part of the schedule, it gets really hard once you get into this conference the past couple of years because unless they were highly ranked coming into the conference and kept winning, then it doesn't really help. So like the case of like Miami, for example, Miami was a top 25 team coming out of non-conference pretty much, and they were sitting right there. They go through a 3-game losing streak, and they're no longer ranked. And it's like, okay, now you can play them, but they're 3-2 in conference, and it's not going to really help you juice wise. I guess it'd still be like a quad 2 or something at this point if you beat Miami, like at Miami. Same for Florida State, same for Wake Forest and NC State. I would imagine. I would assume. I don't even think that State win last week was a quad 2 win. for Carolina. I think it was
No,
quad
that was a quad one because it was a road game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there's still some opportunities. I thought I saw Carolina hadn't had any opportunities really for a quad 2 win yet, but they're about to get them, as you said, as the schedule's about to flip over, and maybe I can.
They had a quad 2 earlier, but it converted to a quad 3. I don't remember which team fell down. So yeah, right now they don't have a quad 2 game.
See, and that's the thing that bothers me too, because teams that were rated high early in the year, if they start to fall off, then it affects you. Like if you beat them back when they were ranked, as opposed to like in college football, it doesn't seem to hurt you as much. Like say that opening week, you're playing LSU and LSU's ranked number 4, you beat them, but then LSU goes on and loses 3 games during the year or whatever. You still kind of get credit for beating LSU when they were ranked number 4 back in September, like Texas and Alabama. Texas got credit for beating Alabama in Tuscaloosa back in September. But by the time we got to the end of the year, they're 2 completely different teams, but they still got that juice. It doesn't feel like you get that in college basketball, where they don't really do it in that manner. I'm trying to get down to the schedule.
Yeah, I found that it was Arkansas. When Carolina beat Arkansas, that was a quad 2, but Arkansas has now got a net ranking around 100.
Yeah, they fell.
13, something like that. So that's now a quad 3. So yeah, that's the one that got converted.
So we got Louisville on Wednesday. That's January the 17th. That's a 9 p.m. tip off, and it's on the ACC network. If we just scan ahead, they have to go play Boston College on Saturday, January 20th. That game is on the CW, so that's on that package of games that the CW has for the ACC. It's a 2:15.
2 days later, playing Wake Forest at home.
Yeah, 2 days later, back in Chapel Hill on ESPN on a Monday, on a big Monday, January 22nd, taking on Wake at 7 p.m. And then Florida State on the road right behind it on Saturday. So they'll get a week between Wake and Florida State. That's a little stretch there. Louisville, Boston College, they should be able to, the way they're playing, they should be able to take care of those fairly well. Wake and Florida State could be hiccups, especially Florida State and Tallahassee. And that game's on ESPN or ESPN2. It's a Saturday game at 2 p.m. That one could be tricky. And then you got Georgia Tech, and then you've got the first Duke matchup on February the 3rd, which I Bleav is Super Bowl week.
But the thing about Louisville, you have to also consider that Louisville won at Miami. I don't know if that says more about Miami or more about Louisville, but
yeah,
it did get my attention.
Yeah. See, yeah, you're right. Because I mean, there's the middle to box ACC a lot of flack, but I mean, they're still a winning game. Notre Dame has beat some teams. Georgia Tech beat Duke the first time around. I mean, so it's not like the bottom of the league is just trash. It's just, it's like the perception in the national media is that it's trash. And I don't really buy that. I don't really buy that. Any place you see a game, like I don't feel like so they're gonna just float by Louisville or whatever. Like I don't feel like that yet, where they can just kind of coast on a bad night and still win. They're getting there though. They're getting there.
But I mean, you can talk to Steve Forbes about frustration with that perception, because the Deacons won 11 league games last year and got left out.
Got left out, yeah, and I think they were one of the first ones out too at that. So I mean, and that situation is probably going to happen again. Like I would think by the time we get to the end of this season, Carolina's in, Duke is in, Wake's probably going to get in. I say that and watch Wake go on like a losing streak or something. Sorry, Coach Forbes. NC State is a weird team to me. They feel like they're kind of built like Florida State, sort of, but they're smaller. They run deep, but they get into like, it felt like, well, in our game, it felt like they got stuck in watching DJ Burns a lot in the first half. Like they would throw it to him and he clears everyone out and he just backs somebody down like Shaq style or whatever. And that's fine, but you can't do that 30 times a game. So I don't know if they can ride that to a lot of victories. When he's on,
you can't keep chucking up 3-pointers when you're not making them.
Yeah, you're like one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in the league. Like, what are you doing? Like, give it to your 7 foot, 450 pound dude in the paint and let him eat instead of shooting 35-foot threes. But that's the nature of basketball nowadays. It's like everybody would rather shoot a 3 than post up and shoot a 5-footer. So which is why Carolina's refreshing, because Carolina actually has players that'll post you up. They'll get you in the paint and back you down. Ingram does it. Winters does it. Of course, Baycott does it. Washington can do it. But I think Washington's the future of what Hubert wants as a big man. Like, he wants that guy that can do a little bit of what Armando does, but can also go out and shoot the three and be like a stretch like Jalen is. And I'll tell you, man, out of everybody that's on this team, like right now, I think Washington is the one that's got the biggest ceiling from this year to next year, because next year he's going to be the guy, like in the middle. Like, it's him. He's going to be the starter. He knows it going into it. So by then he'll be a year or two away from the injuries, year or two in the strength room at UNC, eating well, just learning the way. He's going to be the dude. And I don't know if Cadeau comes back after the season's over. I know people know he reclassified, I think like twice. He reclassified back down, but he reclassified back into his regular class or something like that. But he's 19 already. So he's an old freshman. And that might have been what convinced him to go ahead and go now. I don't think Cadeau, do you think Cadeau get drafted first round as it stands right now?
I don't know. That's what I wonder about, particularly a guard of his size.
I don't even know if they would have
I
it.
just get the sense he's probably going to come back, but I don't know what the NBA scouts are saying. I don't know what people are whispering in his ear at this point. But it seems like he'd be do good to come back another season.
I think so too. He was the 11th ranked player in the 24/7 Sports composite for this class. I'm trying to see if anybody has. Okay, I'm looking to see if anybody has kind of ranked mid first to early second round pick is what I'm seeing on NBA.com. So, and he's listed as like the out of all the point guards, he's not even shown in the top 28.
But you know, he's the having a pure point guard is making a big difference for the Tar Heels. Carolina hasn't had a point guard with his speed and quickness since Kobe White. White's a better scorer than Elliott has shown so far, but Cadeau's a better passer than Kobe was.
Mm-hmm. And, it's like a faster Marcus Page to me, where he distributes. He can shoot. Well, he hasn't really shown he can shoot it. I assume he can, but he can get to the cup at least. And he looks like Page his freshman year. He got to play more than he probably expected to. But by the time sophomore year and junior year came around, it was Marcus Page's team at that point. And you could tell he'd been working out, put a little bit on his bones. And by senior year, you know, Page was a monster. But I don't expect Cadeau to be here for 4 years. But
no.
I would hope he would be here next year to play with the class he was originally with coming in. The Drake Powell and those kids that are coming in. I'll be curious to see what Hubert does to mix that class in with whoever is here from the portal. So who's the Ingram? This is his last year eligibility, or does he have more eligibility after this year?
No, he's coming back. He can come back.
He can come back. So Ingram, I think Cormac Ryan's like 25 or something like that.
Yeah,
I think
Cormac's done after this season.
So Cormac's done. Armando, of course, is done. People ask me all the time, can RJ come back if he wants to? I'm like, I think so. He has a COVID year, but I don't think I don't think he will. But there's still kids.
Again, a guard of his size, how much are NBA teams going to look at him? I think you likely see RJ coming back.
Let's look up RJ Davis, because his draft stock's got to be high now, or higher than it's ever been, at least.
But you've seen terrific Carolina point guards really do nothing in the NBA.
Yeah,
Kobe being the exception. Joe Barry, tremendous point guard, and just never stuck in the NBA.
Yeah. And they're all about the same size, 6'1", 6'2". You never see like a 6'5" point guard at Carolina, that kind of thing. For right now, they've got a possible second round pick in the 2023 NBA draft. So even if he wins Player of the Year and first team All-American and all that stuff, that size is probably going to get him. I mean, unless he's shooting like 47% from three or something nuts, like Steph Curry type 3-point shooting, then maybe he can get through there. But
and then you throw in the element of NIL. That's another factor that you might come back making those pickle juice ads.
Yeah.
Bringing in the money.
That's why, hey, Armando's probably making more here than he would have if he was playing for the Swarm or whatever in Greensboro on a G League deal. So I don't mind Armando staying at all. If anything, if I had a chance to stay an extra year in college and be the big man on campus and play back, yeah, I'm staying and get paid to do it too. What? Yeah, come on, let's go. So I would definitely pick that. Let's wrap it right there. But just to give everybody an idea here. So what we got coming up, Louisville is tomorrow night. It's a set 9:00 tip off. Great 9:00 late tip off for Louisville. ACC Network. It's a home game. I assume RL will be in the house. And then the Hills don't play again until Saturday. They'll take on Boston College on the road. That game is on the CW, 2:15 p.m.
I'm looking forward to going up there for that one. I've never been to Boston College.
I've never been up there before either. We probably won't be back till after the weight game on Monday, the 22nd. So a week from today would be Tuesday, the 23rd. And we'll probably be back then. And at that point, we'll have Louisville, Boston College, and Wake Forest to look at, and we'll be able to preview Florida State, which would be later on that week. So that's a good spot right there in the schedule. And we're kind of working on bringing on a permanent host from the Tar Heel family. Shout out to Tyler Zeller, who was on with us for a couple of episodes. He'll be in and out. We've got a couple others that we're talking to. And when we have those on, then we can actually expand the pod out a little bit more and talk more instead of just recaps and previews or whatever. We can actually talk about what's it like to be a Carolina Tar Heel? Like, what's it like to win as a Tar Heel? Like, why is Carolina different than these other places? We hear it all the time from players that, this place is different. This place is different. But when you hear a Carolina guy go, yeah, there's no better place to play college basketball than in Chapel Hill, and they rattle off like 12 reasons why. I want a Carolina player to tell us, like why? Like, why did he pick to come here? Why is he still attached to it? Because as a Carolina fan, sometimes I get offended when I see other schools try to mimic what Carolina has done in terms of Carolina family, like the brotherhood over 8 miles up the road at Duke or whatever. That did not exist in the 90s. I don't care what anybody tells me. Like, there was no brotherhood in the 90s. That started when they started bringing in the one and dones. Like, and that was to me like a marketing tool to kind of keep them all together, because they weren't all together. Like, they didn't play with each other. So the Carolina family thing's been around since Frank McGuire. Like, I mean, like, it's like the 60s, the 50s. Like, it's been like, it's all from Lenny Rosenbluth. Yeah, like, I mean, it's been there. And like Dean really hammered that home, where I would hear stories of like Carolina players in the NBA, like as rookies, and would come in and like say they're in like Utah or someplace. They don't know anybody, but there's a Tar Heel on the Jazz, and they know that there's a rookie coming in from the Hornets, whoever playing that night. They're going to make sure they get in touch with that kid and take him out to dinner. And, you know, that whole thing, like, it's just, it's different. And I don't want to take anything away from other schools. It just feels like some schools are piggybacking off of the idea of it. And I don't see those players like interacting with each other like I see Carolina players interacting with each other. There's a family element to everything here. And that's why
even two NBA players who never played with each other. But they get to know each other during those summer pickup games, and when the former players get together and they develop a relationship that even though they didn't play with each other.
Yeah, so it's a bond. And of course, you know, these kids come back and they play pickup, or kids, these grown men, these people older than me, they come back and play pickup basketball in the summer, which is always a huge deal. I remember hearing stories from like guys that like I'd be in high school or college with that were good ball players that would get invited to go play the Pro-Am up at Chapel Hill, and like, yeah, Vince Carter dunked on me, and like all this stuff. Antoine Jameson got a rebound on me, and like stuff like that. So we'll get into all that throughout the season as we go. Again, Bleav in Heels Hoops. Please go rate and subscribe on the Bleav Podcast Network. Just Google Bleav in Heels Hoops. You'll find us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Luminary, all the major podcast locations. Any place you can find Bleav in Carolina Panthers, you can find Bleav in Heels Hoops. Just type it in, subscribe to it. It'll load up into your system when we drop a new episode. The video versions are available at youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio and at Tar Heel Tribune. You can catch those there. We'll be back after the weight game on Monday with that and a little bit more. Probably some surprises by that point too. We'll get you ready for the middle stretch here because at that point there'll only be a couple of games before we get to Duke. So we might plan something special for the Duke week. No, I don't know yet. We'll figure something out. Usually I do crossover episodes with another Duke podcast or something, but we might. I'm friends with the guys who do the Devil's Den podcast, so maybe we'll invite those guys on and banter. So for RL Bynum, this is Desmond Johnson. You've been listening and watching to the Bleav in Hills Hoops podcast on Bleav Podcast Networks, brought to you by Bet Online. Keep pounding. Or, not keep pounding. What am I doing? This is not Bleav in Panthers. Go Hills.